are we in the midst of a housing crash right here in the United States? Well, some industry experts say that we are. Others say that it's not going to happen. I've been looking at the data and trying to figure out exactly what is going to take place. And I wish I had a crystal ball that I could rub and tell you exactly what's going to happen, but that's just not the case. So we're staying on top of this every single day, making sure that we're giving our clients as much information as we can to make a decision. Hey, what's up, you guys? My name is Eric Meldrum. I'm a team leader here with True Living Group with eXp right here in Ann Arbor, Michigan. And we are helping people move all over the country, whether you're moving from California, New York, Chicago, Florida to Michigan, we got your back. So go ahead, give us a call, shoot us a text, send us an email, even schedule a Zoom call. I put that link down below to contact me or my team, and we'll sit down with you and have a conversation about what your plans are to move right here to Ann Arbor. This type of video is not something typical we do on our channel. It's probably going to be something we do ongoing, just because there's a lot of talk about what the housing market is doing and where it's going. So I wanted to unpack some stats and some things that I've been looking at in my market. And this may go for people in other markets as well. What we see on the West Coast and in other major markets is typically what we see here in Ann Arbor. Now, Ann Arbor has some pretty strong job growth and some pretty strong job stability. So a lot of the stats that we've seen over the years, when we have a downturn in the economy and things go south, Ann Arbor is kind of really stagnant. Property values tend to stay a little bit higher. They tend to not drop as much as the industry average. So just kind of keep that in mind as we go through some of these stats. But the one big thing that I've been looking at, and I got some notes here that I'm going to reference. The one big thing that I've been looking at throughout this whole entire pandemic is the housing prices. Now, you've heard 30, 40, 50% increases in some markets. Here in Ann Arbor, we've seen about a 12 to 15% increase year over year. So from 20 to 2021, we saw a 12.5. From 2021 to 2022, we saw about a 13% increase. So 20 to 25% increase in property values. That's a pretty large jump, going from what we thought was already a kind of a high market now into another jump of 25%. One of the key things here with these property values going up is people are saying, well, nobody can sustain this, right? This is unsustainable in my market, and nobody's gonna be able to afford housing. Well, these houses are still selling, guys. And here's some stats. And if you have some comments, drop it in the comments below. I'd love to hear some questions. If you disagree with this or even agree with this, drop it in the comments below. I'd love to hear that as well. But here's something interesting. Out of the last 6 months in our market, over 2,000 homes have sold. That's condos and single family homes. Now, of those 2,000 homes, 25% of those homes sold cash. Okay, in a market with an average price point of around $370,000, 25% of those homes sold cash. The other 69% of homes, and then there's some fallout between FHA and VA and other financing, but 69% of the sales were conventional mortgages. Okay, we have to assume that they're putting down anywhere from 10 to 20%. That's typically what we see in conventional mortgages. So even, and this is where I'm going with this, is even if the prices do come down a little bit, a lot of these buyers do not have negative equity. Okay, if 69% of buyers have more than 10 to 20% equity in their home, right when they buy it, they are protected with a 20% drop in home values. That's when they would be underwater. Okay, if they just have a 5-6% drop in home values, everybody's fine. Nobody's freaking out. We're not calling, for a 2008 recession. 2008 housing crisis, that would be insane. So I thought that was super interesting. And if you're seeing that in your market, drop that in the comments below. We dug into those details and it was crazy. About 25% of those homes sold cash. Now, here's where it starts getting really interesting with the price points. I broke these down into categories where we have about $190,000 worth of purchase price, which you can't even get into really Ann Arbor for under 200,000. There was about 10% of homes sold 190 or below. 300 and below, we had 24% of homes sold under 300,000. Now, here's where the big jump takes place. Okay, anything 450 and below, so that's 450 to 300, we had 31% of the homes selling. Now, those are entry level for Ann Arbor. So you see that makes up about 70% of the market. Okay, 70% of the homes are selling 450 and below. Now, 30% of the homes sold 450 and above. All right, so if we take a look at that in terms of how homes have been selling for a conventional mortgage and cash, 69% of those homes sold for conventional with 10 to 20% equity already starting in the home. And now you triangulate that with the price point. What we know in Ann Arbor is the price points that are adverse to, big drops are going to be the smaller homes. Okay, so if 70% of the market is 450 and below, and that's what we consider entry level to even get into Ann Arbor, you can't really go down much further from that. Okay? I think we're going to see a lot of, stability in that price point. The homes in the higher price points, maybe 450 and above, I think we're going to see a little bit more volatility in that. Those home prices have a little bit more to work with. Those subdivisions could come down a little bit. Those home prices could come down, or they could just sit on the market longer. Now, these people in those price points, they don't have to move. Okay, if they're selling, they likely already have that type of equity in their home too. So we're not going to see a big wild swing in home prices here in Ann Arbor, in my opinion. If you guys disagree, love to see that in the comments below. Have a healthy discussion about what that looks like in your guys' mind. All right, so this article that I read actually jumped out to me because I saw this and a lot of people have came out and said that they don't believe that a housing crash is going to occur. And this individual, who is a very influential person in Wall Street and has had a lot of predictions about where things are going, Jeremy came out and basically said the housing market is likely to experience some turbulence. Okay, and he actually says there's going to be a property crisis. Throughout this article, he drops some even more stronger language about what he thinks the market is going to do. He even relates it to what happened in Japan in the 90s, and I don't think Japan's fully recovered from that. So I totally respect this individual. He's a lot smarter than I am. He's predicted a lot more stuff, but I just don't see this happening, and I don't agree 100% with. He might be more on a national scale, but I don't agree with that. That's going to happen here in the Ann Arbor and surrounding area, just as on a macro level. So a couple of things that I wanted to call out in this article is, he warns about a U.S. housing market crash as mortgage rates rise. Okay, so we've seen some volatility in mortgage rates. The Fed has also come out and said, we are going to raise the rates multiple times throughout the year. We're already in the mid fives. We think they're going to go up to 6-7%. Okay, so half a basis point. So what this actually means, and I have a good example here that I'll share in a minute, but what this actually means is borrowers can afford less of a home. Okay, so those higher price points, those are the ones that are going to come down. Again, if people can afford 450 and below, then I think we're going to see a lot of more stability. And this goes back into, if mortgage rates rise and borrowers' purchasing power goes down, then what they can afford is less, which means more stability for those lower price point homes. Okay, that's going to continue to drive up, and I think there's going to be a lot more competition there as well. All right, so a couple other things that he says in here, talks about the stock market. The stock market is on rocky roads right now as the Fed increases rates. The one interesting thing that I saw from this is the fact that he is comparing this to Japan. Okay, so with what happened to Japan, home prices went like sky high, right, in the 90s. Now, keep in mind, in the 90s, interest rates were also very high. Okay, so when you had high interest rates in the 90s, and if you go back to anybody who bought a home in the 90s, paying a 9 to 16% interest rate was not crazy. Like it was the norm. We're in the mid fives right now. Until we start seeing those high interest rates, I don't think that's going to happen. But a lot of big differences between what happened in Japan in the 90s compared to what's happening today. Leaner lending practices and more stringent approvals are taking place in the market compared to potentially what happened in Japan in the 90s as well. Now, this other article that I found is essentially it's from the Washington Post. They're saying that the rising interest rates are going to cool the housing market, but the crash is unlikely. Okay, so you're seeing both sides of this, and I'd love to see if you guys have an opinion about this. Drop it in the comments, and we can chat about it. But the housing market crash, that's the buzzword right now, and a lot of people are skeptical, and we see a lot of clients who are on the sideline because of it. Now, a couple interesting facts in this article. When we kind of look at what interest rates do, and I mentioned before, interest rates have a big impact on how much we can afford, but they go through an example here. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, here it is. So let's say you bought a home for $500,000 at the end of last year, and you took out, and you had 20% down, so 20% of 500,000 is 100K. So you're taking out $400,000 in a mortgage. Okay, so that mortgage would have been 3.1, let's just call it 3.5%, and your monthly interest and principal payments would have been around $1,700 per month. Now, let's take a look at your $400,000 mortgage at a 5.1% interest rate to buy that same $500,000 house in late April. Your monthly payment would have been $2,171. Okay, so that's a 27% increase in your monthly cost to having a 2% increase in the mortgage rate. Okay, it's 22% increase in the mortgage rate equates to 27% increase in your monthly cost. Now, 27%, here's the interesting part. I don't know anybody who's getting an increase in salaries of 27% from 2 years. Okay? Industry average tells us 3%. If you're in a corporation and you're earning, you're going to get a bump 3, maybe 5% if the company is really growing. But a lot of companies have had, struggles throughout the pandemic as well. So I don't see that happening. 27% increase in monthly cost, that's going to be unsustainable, for a lot of people. But here's the thing to think about, and we talk about this with our clients as well, is these mortgage rates potentially may not be forever. Okay, so if we truly think that the economy is going into recession, there is going to be some leniency on these mortgage rates. Typically, when we go into recession, the government drops interest rates, makes it easier for borrowing, and that then you can refinance. What happened back in 18, 19, where interest rates were in the low 2s, people were refinancing like crazy. So even if you get locked in at a 5.5%, 6% interest rate, even if we go back down to 4.5%, and we're conservative, and maybe we'll never see 2.5% interest rates ever again, but even if we go into 4.5%, you can still refinance and drop that monthly payment by a little bit as well. A lot of this data, is coming to us real time. Guys, if you have questions, feel free to reach out. I thought these articles were super interesting. I wanted to touch on that here in this video. All right, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Whether the housing market will crash or not, I think that's still undetermined, but there's a lot of data here to support that, the fact that it will not crash, in my opinion. There's a lot of stability in lower price points. Some of the higher price points may be affected a little bit, but I think those people have a lot of equity in their home and can weather the storm that may be ahead. So if you guys have questions, drop it in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you're notified of the latest market here in Ann Arbor, Michigan. And if you're thinking about moving to the Ann Arbor, Michigan, or looking to invest, guys, go ahead, give us a call, shoot us a text, send us an email, even schedule a Zoom call with that link below, and we love to help you make a smooth move to Ann Arbor, Michigan. All right, guys, until next time, we'll catch you on the next one.